It happened. It finally happened. After what has felt like 30 years of waiting, the Golden State Warriors have made not just one off-season move, but two in the span of an hour. And it was two of the best moves they could have made. Because despite being 39 years old and giving everyone the chance to joke about the Dubs being a team full of senior citizens, it's one thing to be old. It's a completely different thing when you are still very good. And at 39 years old, Al Horford isn't just good for his age, he was one of the best free agents in the NBA this offseason.
Good news, the Bucks are just 1 for 5. Oh! Rejects Giannis.
And here tonight, we are in Group C play with Cleveland and Boston. Horford gets a block from behind.
Now, it wasn't exactly the craziest class of free agents, and it hasn't been the craziest offseason either. Yes, Shams was lying, but if there was one free agent who I thought was perfect for the Warriors, it was Big Al. Everyone can laugh at the age of the Warriors frontcourt, but after trading for Jimmy Butler last season, the Warriors had the best defense in the league. And do you want to know why? It's because of intelligence and experience. That's what Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green specialize in on the defensive end of the floor. They know where to be and when to be at the right time, every single time, which is why even at their age, they transformed the Dubs into the best defense in the league. Al Horford is exactly the same, and this is without mentioning the biggest strength of Al's game, which sounds crazy to say given his age, it's his versatility. Just look back to last year's NBA Finals, in particular Game 1, where Al did an incredible job switching onto Luka Doncic and quite honestly, locking him up. Like here where he's right in Luka's face, and as he goes for that step back, Al gets that arm out to disrupt his shot and help force the miss. Or this time where Gafford sets the screen to get the switch, and it's not a fun switch, because as Luka goes to that step back, how about Al Horford getting out there and not just contesting, but blocking Luka's step back jumper? And I know this was over a year ago, but we also saw Al have success against Luka when he played them with the Lakers late last season. And if you think Luka was just settling for threes, there's a reason he was doing that. If Luka thought he could blow past Al on every possession, then I'm sure he would have done that. This is what makes Al so unique, even at his age, because he is one of the rare players you can put on an island against certain guards and skillful wings. Maybe not against Kyrie Irving or Steph Curry, which we saw wasn't the best idea, but you know what I mean. And then if you want him to guard Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic or even Giannis, he has been a guy who has had as much success doing that as pretty much any player in the NBA. Honestly, he's kind of like a bigger version of Draymond Green. Someone who can take on any matchup, who can mesh with any starting lineup, and who never seems to drop off defensively despite their age. And there's just a level of pride these guys have on the defensive end that you don't see from many other players in the league. I mean, just look at the stats from Giannis and Embiid when guarded by Al in the playoffs. Obviously, like I've mentioned, this was a few years ago, and we know Father Time is serious, but he still gives you 80 to 90% of what he was giving you during those playoff runs, and that is better than anything the Warriors have had for a long time at the center position. Because as much as I loved what Quentin Post brought the Warriors last year as a rookie, he was exactly that, a rookie, and the Warriors were too reliant on him to play too many minutes. Now you have a clear upgrade defensively, and the best part about signing Al is not only do you have an upgrade over Post and TJD defensively, but that spacing which we saw from Post that helped open up the floor for Steph and Pods more consistently, Al brings that as well. Whilst I don't need to tell you that 39-year-old Al Horford is not exactly a lob threat, one thing he will do is shoot the ball, and do it well, because since 2021, he's averaged 4.6 three-point attempts and shot 39% from three. And the numbers have been the same throughout the playoffs as well. Al Horford has been one of the best shooters at the center position, which means the Warriors now have two of the best shooters at the center position. And what I really like about them as shooters is they aren't just guys who can hit threes from the top of the key. This is important because if you were to run a pick and roll with Steph Curry and Draymond Green, you can have Al Horford or Quinton Post spotting up in the corner, providing that same kind of spacing you get from a good 3-and-D wing. These guys aren't just good shooters for their position, they are versatile. And if you're thinking that Al and Post might be the same kind of offensive player, I think they are similar, which I think is good. But one thing Al has that Post doesn't have in his game right now and will thrive for the Warriors is great decision making and passing. This right here is definitely the most underrated part of the Al Horford signing. He's not someone that you put on the block and then use as a hub. When the ball is moving around, Al is a quick decision maker and he will find Steph and Buddy coming off pin downs or Jimmy in post-up situations. He can even make plays out of the short pick and roll, which will be perfect next to Steph. Like here where he sets the screen for Tatum, Paolo steps up and he throws the perfect lob to Kristaps. And I think the best comparison for Al is Kevon Looney from a couple of years ago, without being as elite at rebounding, but being a much better shooter and a better defender as well. And that Kevon Looney we saw a couple of years ago contributed to a championship winning team. So even at 39 years old, the skill set Al has for this Warriors team is going to work like a treat. And speaking of skill sets for this Warriors team, I'm tempted to make an entire video on De'Anthony Melton, because I do truly believe that this signing could be one of the most underrated signings of the offseason across the league. Now, firstly, let's say the obvious part with Melton and why there is some reason to be skeptical. He's coming off an ACL injury and he has struggled with injuries the last 2 seasons. But let me tell you guys the good news. He's only 27 years old and thousands of athletes have recovered from ACL injuries. We see it every single season in the NBA. I don't see any reason to believe he won't come back and get back to his best fully healthy at his age. He also played 73 and 77 games in 22 and 2023. So he's not someone that has never been healthy, just the last 2 seasons have been unfortunate. And if he can stay healthy, we got a glimpse of what Melton can do in just the 6 games he played last year for the Dubs. And if you want to talk about the defense of Jimmy, Dre, and Al, Melton fits that criteria perfectly. Just watch this play where he initially stunts at Shea on the screen, he then rotates back out to Joe, but as Shea gets caught in the air, he has the awareness to recognize that his only option is J-Dub, and he anticipates the pass before using his length to poke it away. And he uses that length to get in the passing lanes a lot, because despite being 6'3", he has a 7-foot wingspan. There are definitely some parallels to GP2. It was another signing the Warriors made recently, and I think having those 2 guys at full health in the backcourt off the bench defensively, they are going to cause havoc. Now, the difference between GP2 and Melton is instead of being a cutter and inside scorer, Melton can handle the ball more, he's a better playmaker, and a much better shooter. So you get 2 different variants of the same kind of defensive monsters off the bench. All of a sudden, for an offseason that started very slowly, they're looking pretty good.